So to this day, after 20 over years, do you think that was the snake poking at you, or there was some deva watching over you?
Well, one of the advantages is living in Sangha is that you can always get second opinion on events. So if you have very good teachers like Ajahn, who also are very skilled with meditation and have some special knowledge, well, sometimes they can confirm what you believe or think or have seen, or deny, or tell you you're deluded. You know, it works both ways. So what monks tend to do is seek a second opinion in these occasions. So on that occasion, I sought a second opinion, and he agreed, yeah, it's probably a deva. Because in monasteries get full of devas, don't they? You know, devas are beings, people like you and me who have died, they haven't reached Nibbana yet, and they still want to practice and do good. And one of the ways devas do good is they hang around and are close to those who are practicing, so they can give their anumodana and support to those who are practicing. So most people understand the concept guardian angel, guardian deva. So it could be a guardian deva of a monastery, or a part of a monastery, or a person, or sangha. And you know, most monks and teachers have experience of these things, and they don't talk about it much because we have rules which prevent us doing that. But you know, sometimes you can't help it, can you? If somebody comes to you with their experience, you discuss it with them, or sometimes you share your own experiences that are true. You know, there's no way I can deny the fact that I was poked in the ribs twice. And also, I'm sure there was no person in that kuti, and I don't think it was the snake as such, because the snake was coiled up on my windowsill. It was only like 6 inches from my head, very close, but it was still physically separate from me, so it wasn't the snake. So what was it? Well, I meditated, of course. After that event, what you tend to do, you sit down, you meditate, and you contemplate, what was that? And the answer my mind gave me was, there must be someone here helping me. The good deva, the good ghost. And then I went and asked Ajahn, and he said yes. And myself and other monks had many, many different kinds of experiences, but similar to that. So after a while, you kind of build up a kind of your experience in these things. So you doubt less. You don't waste a lot of time thinking about it either, but you also are fairly confident in your assessment of the situation.
Thank you, Lampo. Any questions? Anyone at all? Any comments?
Everyone is scared of ghosts, and they don't want to talk about ghosts because they think it will bring the ghost to them. So they're all steering clear of the subject very wisely.
Well, it seems like so that everyone's taking some time to contemplate. Well, there is a question, and this is from Robert. His question is, Dear Lampo, are rainbows sometimes signs of devas celebrating? What do you think?
Well, these experiences, the sort of natural phenomena, you can always look on at 2 levels. You know, obviously, a rainbow is produced. There's the scientific explanation, light refracted through raindrops or moisture in the atmosphere. That's the normal explanation. But what we tend to notice, and what many Buddhists and non-Buddhists often notice, is they come at seemingly auspicious times. This isn't an absolute thing, and you can say it's just speculation as well. So you have to know your mind, don't you? You know your mind if you're speculating. But you know, one of the most famous rainbow stories is Lumpur Panyawado. Ajahn Mahabua is leading senior Western disciple who, when, a very good monk, very much loved teacher, when he passed away, there's a huge funeral with thousands of monks, 50,000 lay people attended. So it was a very special occasion. People were remembering his life, his contribution to Buddhism, his teachings. So it was a very good feeling there, a very warm feeling, sadness that he'd died, but also a warm feeling just remembering the goodness of his life. And during that ceremony, I don't know if you were there, but there's still many people around who were there. This beautiful halo, rainbow halo, appeared around the sun. And we all looked up at it, and we told Lungta Mahabua, and he looked up at it. And, as I said, we get second opinions. So someone said, this is the Devas. And the way he would answer these questions, he'd say, yeah, probably is. So he's saying probably is because, you never want to be too fixed in your opinions on these things, psychic phenomena. But, if he really thought that was a stupid question, he'd probably say, that's a stupid comment. But he didn't. He said probably is. And so, there are stories, maybe commentarial. I don't know if there's much in the sutras, but certainly commentarial material from the time of the Buddha, that even the Buddha himself could admit a rainbow aura. It's just the peaceful, purified mind of Nibbana can have a rainbow aura to it. It's the compassion, the wisdom of the Buddha. Some people will admit an aura from their mind, a peaceful aura, and others see it sometimes. And they say sometimes people would see the Buddha's rainbow aura and it would inspire them. Sometimes they say the Devas can spread metta, influence the elements, the water element, the air element, and a beautiful rainbow around the sun can happen on an auspicious occasion. But if you want a scientific explanation, you can have that as well. You just say, oh, it's just the sun on the raindrops making that. There's that explanation as well. You can choose.
Thank you, Loppo. There is a question here from Diana. And I'm actually not very clear about her question, but let me read it out. Perhaps Lompo, you will understand. It says, dearest Lompo, can you please kindly mention anything you'd like to share about Bulma Davis? Thank you very much.
Bulma Davis.
Bulma Davis.
Bulma Davis. Yeah, I know.
B-U-M-A.
Yeah. So Buddhist cosmology, we have different heaven realms, different levels of heaven. And there are those heaven realms slightly closer to the physical world and those that are slightly further away. So we have the Chatu Maharajika Deva realm, the realm of the four kings, where you get Bulma Devas, Devas, beings who die with good karma, but they are maybe still associated with a place, so a tree, a rock, a land, a pond. Beings in those realms are supposed to be quite close to humans. And so they're often the ones people see most or have experience of nimittas in their meditation most. There are other devas that are further away. So in heaven realms, like Tawadingsa, like where the Buddha's mother was taught the Abhidhamma, Dusita heaven, where the Buddha himself, they say, before he was born, the Bodhisattva was in Dusita heaven, Sandusit Teva Bhuta. There are different heaven realms, but the Bulma Devas are the ones closer to the human realm, so they tend to be actually associated with physical places, even though they only have subtle bodies which you normally can't see. So then you get all the stories of devas in trees, rocks, fairies at the bottom of the garden, and so on. And, wise meditators, mostly Sangha, but sometimes lay people as well, have experience of them. They've seen them. They've even communicated with them. So teachers such as Ajahn Mun were said to have communicated with devas. They could know the karma of those devas, why they're attached to that place, what their past lives were, and so on. These are some of the psychic knowledges that can come through deep meditation, through jhana. Very few people master them. Very few. Unfortunately, some people think they've got them when they don't. So you have to be a bit cautious about the whole thing, which is, again, why we don't talk about it very much. But they are, said to exist, and many wise teachers say that yes, they do exist. So this is one thing, why people share merits with the devas or invite the devas to come. So when the monks chant the Paritta chants, we begin by inviting the devas to come and listen. So some monks who have very powerful minds, very pure, peaceful monks, like Lumpur Man or Lumpur Chop, for example. Lumpur Chop was a student of Lumpur Man. They say when he would do his Paritta chanting in the forest, so many devas would come. There'd just be this amazing good feeling. All these devas, all these good-hearted beings there, generated a very powerful good feeling around him. So the monks, his students, would like to secretly go up and just sit meditating behind him as he was chanting in the evening, because the energy was so good. You could say it's an attachment, just kind of, clinging on to the good energy of the Ajahn and then the energy of the devas that come. But, sometimes we need a bit of boost in our practice. That positive energy can help. So they say, oh, that was an amazing energy when Lumpur Chop would chant. And many other teachers, it's the same thing. At one time, Lumpur Uttama, who was a famous monk in Thailand who died a few years ago, he came to Melbourne once in the 1980s. But when he came to visit us at Wat Map Jan, Ajahn Anand's monastery once. And we took him to the main hall and he sat down and he said, let's chant the Parittas, which is a sort of an auspicious thing you do on these occasions. And before he chanted, he rang the bell, the meditation bell, which we normally ring at the end of the session, but it's not something a visiting monk will normally do. He rang the bell and then chanted the Parittas. And so everyone was curious, why is he ringing the bell? And Ajahn Anand said, oh, he's calling the devas. There's a lot of devas in that monastery, as in most monasteries, living in trees and around the place. And they all want to meet the good monk and hear the chanting. So they all came. So he rings the bell and suddenly, boom, there's this great energy in the hall. And we chanted the Parittas and everyone was super happy, on a buzz, very happy. Those kind of occasions tend to be like that. And it's because all the devas came. So it was like, you not only got all the people came, because a lot of local villagers and people from the local town came to see him. All the monks were there. And then all the devas joined in as well. Because where do Bulma Davis come from? Well, they come from human beings who die and become devas. And just as we are drawn to good practitioners, people with a pure heart, with compassion, with wisdom, we're drawn to them. Well, so are the devas. So the devas like to come along as well. So his way of inviting the devas to join the occasion was to ring the bell. And one good thing about being a deva is you have instant travel pass. You don't need lockdowns and borders and passports and aeroplanes and airports and all that stuff. That's the stuff of human beings. Devas just think and they're there in an instant. So Lumpur rings the bell, boom, all the devas are there instantly. So a very special occasion. That's why I remember it. That's 25 years ago, but I still remember it very clearly today. So devas, they like to join in good events. They like to support people doing good, give their anumodana. They like to look after places that are auspicious. As I said, secluded spots, trees, rocks, places. They're often where Bulma Devas are living.
Yeah, we're all very inspired. Sadhu Lumpur. We know that when the Ajahns are around chanting, we all want to gather around as well because we can feel it even, in our skin and our body. Do you have time for 2 more questions, Lumpur?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the question is around. So Yuki is asking, every year during the lunar month of 7, the 7th lunar month, if one dreams of close family members who have passed away, what do we interpret of such phenomena?
Well, this is your connection, karmic connection with those beings has brought this up. It could be from memory. It could be the influence of those beings actually in other realms still mentally contacting you because they know the day you make merit for ancestors is coming up. They know it's good for you to make merit because making merit means putting effort into your practice, practicing generosity, maybe meditating, chanting, listening to the Dhamma. They know that's good for you, so you get a pop-up in your mind. It could be just a mental remembering them. You're awake, but you remember, or it could be in a dream. So it's the influence of those ancestors coming, encouraging you to do good. If you want an analogy, it's like your friend ringing up, your living friend ringing up saying, oh, you should go to the temple today and do merit, make merit. It's just good people encouraging others to do good. And because of the connection through blood relations, then they have an interest for us to do good. So you see them sometimes.
Sadhu Lumpur. So there is a question here from Kai Hong. Thank you, Bhante, for the teaching. In the case when one has fear of snakes or any poisonous insects who are about to attack us, how does one deal with this kind of fear?
Run. If something's about to attack you, run. If they haven't got to that point, if you just see them and they're not thinking of attacking you, well, you might not need to run. But don't make any jerky or aggressive movements. If you come across a snake, stop, assess the situation, walk around it. I don't know about Asia. In Asia, I find the snakes move much faster and they're more easily spooked. So you meet one, usually they quickly slither away or do something. Whereas in Australia, they're very laid back. They're laid back because they're super poisonous. So you have to be very careful, but they're very laid back. So you meet a snake in Australia, you stop politely, respectfully. Okay, snake, it's your call. You can move on. I'm going to wait for you. You'll be waiting there all day. They don't move. So you have to either slowly back away or you move around. So that's the practical side of it. As far as mental side of it, well, you understand where that fear is coming from. It's self-preservation, your instinct. You don't want to die. You fear that snake could inflict death on you. So of course, fear comes up. But you can also establish mindfulness and you just notice what is fear. Well, there's the heart pumping, there's the tension based on the recognition of what that snake signifies, the possibility of death. But then maybe start investigating, reflecting, well, okay, if you're not aggressive to the snake and the snake is not actually threatening you, I say run, that's if it's threatening you, run away. If it's not threatening you, well, maybe just keep contemplating, what is this snake? It's just a creature that's living on the ground. It actually has a worse life than you because it has to slide around on the ground. There are a lot of predators. Must be very uncomfortable being on the ground. Snakes don't, they must hurt sometimes being a snake, going along the ground, rubbing your belly on rocks and twigs and things. Sometimes they're in the rain, sometimes it's cold. They have to fight for their dinner. They have to fight with frogs and mice and whatever. There's other predators around, bigger snakes that eat them, eagles, whatever it is that eats them, civet cats. You just stop. If you compose yourself, you may still have the fear, but you contemplate like this. After a while, it may turn around, and instead of being afraid of the snake, you feel sorry for it. You still respect it. You know it's got poison, it's dangerous, but you don't feel fear anymore. You just feel sorry for it. Oh, poor you. And you do your best not to scare it, not to get it agitated, and you just go about your business. All things that are fearful, that's how you have to get to understand your fear. So you accept your fear, your attachment to your body and your fear of death. But gradually you can unravel, unbind your fear by contemplating, developing kindness, compassion, wisdom. If you keep doing that, later, eventually, you won't have fear even. It doesn't mean to say you become careless. You still have respect for things that are poisonous, threatening, but you don't react with fear anymore. You just know what they are, you wish them well, and you let them do their business and you do your business.
Thank you so much, Long, for this final question. And this is from Ryan. I think this is a very intimate question to you, Long Po. It says, Dear Long Po, there was a period of your practice where you studied the texts quite intensively. May I ask, what inspired you to do so, and in what ways was this beneficial for your practice?
Well, in the very beginning, we studied the text, myself and many others, just to know what the Buddha said. You want to hear what he said, read it, learn it, find out. You're getting the roadmap for your practice. So you realize, the more you read and study, the more useful it is. But then you reach a point where you probably have enough knowledge of the fundamentals to practice. So maybe you read a little less and you put more effort and time into the practice. But you never give up that respect and value for the texts, and you may return to them. Of course, some people really find it inspiring to study and they become scholars, and that's fine. But if you're practicing meditation, deepening your meditation practice, well, there comes a time where you tend to want to set aside the texts most of the time because you're putting your effort into your meditation. But then it's always good and useful from time to time to go back, refresh your knowledge from the texts, read the suttas, remind yourself of the Buddha's words, just to check that you're on the right path. And the other reason is also if you're been around longer and you may be starting to teach people, you don't want to teach them the wrong thing, which is, there's always a danger of that, teaching them something that doesn't make sense or isn't quite right. So that's another reason you may go back to the texts, review them. But how much you study, it's really a personal thing. Some people study a lot all their lives. Some people study a lot for a period of time and then practice more. It's difficult to get by with no study because you really won't know what you're doing, and it's so easily to go off the practice. So it's worthwhile investing time. But having said that, a lot of the monks I've trained with didn't have a lot of formal education. They certainly didn't study much about the world or the normal education subjects we do nowadays. But they still listened and read a lot of the suttas and the Vinaya and the texts. They did. But there's some I know who couldn't even read at all, like Lumpur Sangwan. He was considered to be an enlightened arahant. When he became a monk, he couldn't even read because he had no time, no opportunity to get educated. When he was brought up, he was very poor, no chance to go to school. So he began with very limited access to the texts. He listened to his teachers and he was learning to read as a monk. He said he only really studied once he'd finished his meditation practice and become enlightened. And by that time, he'd taught himself to read and write. He went back to the main monasteries in Thailand and studied the texts as an arahant. And they asked him, why are you doing this? You're already enlightened. You know what you're doing. Your mind is peaceful. And he said, So I want to make sure I don't say anything that the Buddha didn't say. So it was out of respect for the Buddha. He wanted to make sure he was, whatever he taught was correct. So it's certainly an invaluable role. It's the role of study, but how much depends on the individual and their character as well.
So with that, we're all filled with a heart filled with a lot of inspiration, Long Paul. I think now we have to take all these, ingest it, and then go back and practice for one more week till we see you again next week.
Okay, well, very nice talking to you all, and we'll just finish paying respects to the Buddha Dhamma Sangha.